This collection is called Kathleens' Child. My name is Martin Swords, and I am Kathleens' child. This first poem is called All a Wonder, and it sets the scene for this story. All a wonder. At 7, all a wonder. The boy with his Aunt Kathleen, snug in bed, stone hot water bottle in its blanket, keeping October frost outside. Streetlights shines through net curtains, casting paisley patterns on the wall, moving, changing with the breeze, their own picture show. Talking about the big wide world, tales of the Galapagos, exploring Easter Island and the pyramids. He knew the Orinoco and the Nile. Wide-eyed wonders she told from borrowed library books. Eyes wide opened, never closed. 30 years later, she told him she was his mother. It made sense. This collection of poems is really about thank yous and acknowledgements. Thank yous left unsaid because of human nature, and thank yous unsaid because when some people were alive, I didn't know the story. I didn't know to say thank you. I didn't know the trouble they had all gone to. I was born in 1950, in December. My mother is Kathleen Swords. She lived in 19 Finlater Street in Glasgow. My father was Kathleen's cousin, Francie Byrne. Francie was 56 and was well-travelled and well off. And although he was a cousin, he befriended Kathleen and her cousin, Ina. And in those austere times, took the girls dancing and out for a drink and generally a good time. Kathleen became pregnant in 1950, and I was born in December. Francie, apparently, disappeared off the scene around then or shortly afterwards, went to England, and then I think on to Australia and eventually to New Zealand. In the moral climate of Ireland in 1950, a 32-year-old woman having a baby, unmarried, was about the worst thing that could happen. She didn't get on with her mother, and she was more or less cast out of the house. Thoughts of the shame you'd bring on the family and all the rest. She was taken in by her sister, Annie, who at this stage was married to Jim, and Annie and Jim had a son, John. And around the time I was born, they took Kathleen and me into their house. So John and I were kind of pram brothers and have remained brothers in a sense all our lives. After Christmas, Kathleen placed me in an orphanage, St. Patrick's, in Temple Hill. She wasn't happy to do that. And I suppose for about 6 months, I ran the risk of being adopted by a wealthy American family. Adoptions by orphanages run by nuns to wealthy American families were very commonplace. And I suppose it was only a matter of chance that I wasn't whisked off to New York or Milwaukee or God knows where. In any case, Kathleen took me out of the orphanage, which was a most unusual occurrence at that time. And when I eventually learned the story, I realised how unusual that was. She prevailed on her other brother, Pat, who was married to Mary, known as May, living in Booterstown, to take me in, so a solution was found. And May and Pat reared me, first in Booterstown and then later in Finlater Street in Kathleen's house. Kathleen was always our special Aunt Kathleen, and although we had other aunts in the family, Kathleen was very special, but I didn't know how special. I'm able to tell you some of this story now because I found it out eventually. Actually, Kathleen told me, but I didn't find out until I was 38 in 1988, when eventually Kathleen told me that she was my mother. And the reason I wrote some of these poems is that it left me looking back at a situation that I thought was real, but wasn't real. And it made me wonder and worry about, did I appreciate people enough? Did I say thank you to Mary and Pat for adopting me? Or what? But it was too late to change the history of the whole situation. And the reason I wrote some of these poems is in order to say thank you. In some cases to people who are dead, in other cases to people who are underappreciated. But it was necessary for me to write these, to express thanks, and to say the things that I didn't get a chance to say, or was too busy to say. But by writing them, and now by reading them, I get them said. I get them out of my head, I get them down on paper. They are said. This poem is called The Mother of No Child. It is written from Mary Swords, May, married to Pat. May and Pat, who lived in Booterstown, and who both adopted me for Kathleen. The strange situation is that, looking at it as I did later from May's point of view, she had adopted me and my mother all at the same time. And I realised later how difficult it must have been for May to be living in the same house with the child and the child's mother and wanting to be close to the child but not really being able to. The Mother of No Child, from Mary Swords. You were the mother of no child, but yet a mother just the same. Adopting both the child and natural mother opened a door of happiness for them, if not for you. Taken from school to keep your family safe, you missed the chance of talk and learning. A first in pots and pans and cleaning. The school of life has many different honours. Rearing the child, working when you could on other people's floors and halls, expecting little and rarely getting more, you held the family together. The child was not your own. We only know it now, the hope and sorrow that your life combined, the real mother always there. We all held back the hugs and kisses, the real love you should have got returned. The story told too late to say a proper thank you, to share the pride and anguish that was yours. The mother of no child, but yet a mother. I know you better now you're gone. I know your joy and sorrow. I know enough to thank you. This next poem is called Searching for a Father. After I learnt the news of Kathleen and Francie and me, myself and John started searching for Francie Byrne. John is a genealogist and something of an expert in this area, and was able to find out a tremendous amount of information. I, in turn, was discussing this whole situation with members of the family, and increasingly finding that they didn't want to talk about it. Why do you want to be going back there and raking up all of that? Sure, that's old news, But I didn't really know anything about Francie Byrne, my biological father, but not my real father, as it were. But I kept inquiring because I wanted to know something more about what it was like for Kathleen and how she felt after I was born, and how she was, I suppose, badly treated by Francie. Searching for a father for Kathleen. The story still unfolds. The clues keep coming slow of how a lovely lady loved, thought loved in turn, and loved the life she gave to me. She deserved better than the suave and polished man who fled, his pleasure taken. Soft words, soft promises were all he left to see her through. The dark and wintry nights of 1950, she struggled through the cold of shame and scandal, a time when those who never loved said love was bad and shameful. Shame on them. What would the neighbours and the family think? Only a very few thought to take her in, to give the girl a home, to give the child a brother. 50 years have passed, and people ask, why keep on looking? I have been greatly loved. 2 mammies and a fairy story life of warm and tender care. I do not search for love, I could not have more. But like a mountain that must be climbed, because I need to know because he was there, and then was gone.